I've got a story about my dad and about Vicky's dad, my dad's brother Arney. And you know, I live in Indiana. I used to come down and talk to a lot of the older people, and my grandpa told me a lot of stories, and he never told me this one. And I couldn't understand that. My dad told me this story not too many years ago, right before my dad started getting Alzheimer's. And I thought, man, that's a good story. How's come I've never heard this one before? But you know, my grandpa, I think, was a humble man. And the stories where he was bragging on himself, I never heard those, because he wouldn't brag on himself. But here's how this story goes. It's about my dad and Vicky's dad, Don Porter and Arney Porter, and my grandpa, Everett Porter. And Everett Porter, he was devastated. His second son, Arney Porter, had just been drafted into the Army to serve in the Korean War. And just 3 months earlier, his oldest son, Donald, was drafted. So Everett Porter, he went to see Roy Duncan, who was over the local draft board. And Roy told Everett that he did have the right to refuse to let his second son be drafted into the Army. And Roy said, Everett, put your son's name back in, and I'll draw out the name of someone else's son. So Everett, he started, and then he stopped. And he realized that he would be taking someone else's son from them when he did that. And so he chose to give his second son, Arney, so that a stranger's son would not be taken and put in harm's way. So Everett and Grace Porter, they prayed a lot of prayers for their sons, Don and Arney. And by the grace of God, both sons never saw combat. Don was stationed in Germany, and Arney was stationed in Kentucky. And both served as medics during the Korean War. I thought that was incredible. My grandpa had the power right there to give someone else's son, but he gave his own. That reminds us of somebody else, doesn't it?